Times. Powerful Hollywood women unveil anti-harassment action plan. This is by Kara Buckley. Driven by outrage and a resolve to correct a power imbalance that seemed intractable just months ago, 300 prominent actresses and female agents, writers, directors, producers, and entertainment executives have formed an ambitious, sprawling initiative to fight systemic sexual harassment in Hollywood and in blue-collar workplaces nationwide. The initiative includes a legal defense fund backed by $13 million in donations to help less privileged women like janitors, nurses, workers at farms, factories, restaurants, and hotels protect themselves from sexual misconduct and the fallout from reporting it. Legislation to penalize companies that tolerate persistent harassment and to discourage the use of non-disclosure agreements to silence victims. A drive to reach gender parity at studios and talent agencies that has already begun making headway. And a request that women walking the red carpet at Golden Globes speak out and raise awareness by wearing black. Called Time's Up, the movement has announced on Monday with an impassioned pledge of support to working class women in an open letter signed by hundreds of women in show business, many of them A-listers. The letter also ran as a full-page ad in the New York Times and in La Opinion, a Spanish-language newspaper. The struggle for women to break in, to rise up the ranks, and to simply be heard and acknowledged in male-dominated workspaces must end. Time's up on this impenetrable monopoly, the letter says. The group is one answer to the question of how women in Hollywood will respond to cascading allegations that have upended the careers of powerful men in the industry, where the prevalence of sexual predation has yielded a minimizing cliche of the casting couch, and where silence has been the condition of employment. Time's Up also helps diffuse criticism that the spotlight on the Me Too movement has been dominated by the accusers of high-profile men, while the travails of working-class women have been overlooked. This was highlighted in November when an open letter was sent on behalf of 700,000 female farm workers who said they stood with Hollywood actresses in their fight against abuse. Time's Up members said the letter bolstered their resolve to train their efforts on both Hollywood and beyond. It's very hard for us to speak righteously about the rest of anything if we haven't cleaned our own house, said Shonda Rhimes, the executive producer of the television series Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, and How to Get Away with Murder, who has been closely involved with the group. If this group of women can fight for a model for other women who don't have as much power and privilege, then who can? Ms. Rhimes continued. Other Time's Up members include the actresses Ashley Judd, Eva Longoria, America Ferrera, Natalie Portman, Rashida Jones, Emma Stone, Kerry Washington, and Reese Witherspoon. The showrunner Jill Soloway, Donna Langley, chairwoman of Universal Pictures, the lawyers Nina L. Shaw, and Tina Tchin, who served as Michelle Obama's chief of staff, Maria Edel, an expert in corporate responsibility who is co-chairwoman of the Nike Foundation. People were moved so viscerally, said Mrs. Idle, who helps moderate Time's Up meetings, which began in October. They didn't come together because they wanted to whine or complain or tell a story or bemoan. They came together because they intended to act. There was almost a ferociousness to it, especially in the first meetings. Time's Up is leaderless, run by volunteers, and made up of working groups. One group oversaw the creation of a commission led by Anita Hill and announced in December that it is tasked with creating a blueprint for ending sexual harassment in show business. Another group, 50-50 by 2020, is pushing entertainment organizations and their companies to agree to reach gender parity in their leadership tiers within 2 years. It already can claim a victory. In early December, after Ms. Rhimes pressed him, Chris Silberman, a managing director at ICM Partners, pledged that his talent agency would meet that goal. We just reached this conclusion in our heads that, damn it, everything is possible, Ms. Rhimes said. Why shouldn't it be? There is also a group ensuring that minorities, gays, lesbians, bisexuals, transgender people be heard. No one wants to look back and say they stood at the sidelines. Lena Waithe, a star of Netflix series Master of None and part of that working group. Another group is devising legislation to tackle abuses and address how non-disclosure agreements silence victims of sexual harassment. People settling out in advance of their rights is obviously something that can't continue, said Ms. Shaw, a prominent lawyer whose clients have included Lupita Nyong'o, Ava DuVernay. Ms. Chen is spearheading the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, which is administered by the National Women's Law Center's Legal Network for Gender Equity, and will connect female victims of sexual harassment with lawyers. Major donors include Miss Witherspoon, Miss Rhymes, Meryl Streep, Steven Spielberg, and Kate Capshaw, and the talent agency ICM Partners, the creative artist agency William Morris Endeavor, and United Talent Agency. Time's Up has also been urging women to wear black at the Golden Globes on Sunday, to use the red carpet to speak out against gender and racial inequality, and to raise awareness about their initiative and legal fund. This is a moment of solidarity, not a fashion moment, said Ms. Longoria. A vast majority of women who had been contacted and planned to attend the ceremony pledged to participate, she said. For years, we've sold these award shows as women with our gowns and colors and our beautiful faces and our glamour, Ms. Longoria said. This time, the industry can't expect us to go up and twirl around. That's not what this moment is about. Time's Up was formed soon after the New York Times reported in early October that the producer Harvey Weinstein had reached multiple settlements with women who had accused him of sexual misconduct. As more women stepped forward and more men were accused of abuse, a group of female talent agents met at creative artists to discuss the problem and explore solutions. The group soon expanded to dozens and eventually about 150 participants. It has since doubled as the actresses who joined expanded to New York and London, who meet weekly at the agency and in living rooms across Los Angeles, as well as for day-long workshops. Katie McGrath, who runs the production company Bad Robot with her husband J.J. Abrams, both also major donors to the legal fund, said the women realized from the start that they needed to figure out what we wanted out of this moment and what was going to be required in order to shift and pivot from this horror to structural change. Several of the women said their work with Time's Up presented a rare opportunity to meet regularly and pool efforts with other powerful women. In an industry overwhelmingly dominated by men, they said they were usually one of the few actresses on the set and one of the few female writers or producers in a room. We have been siloed off from each other, Miss Witherspoon said. We're finally hearing each other and seeing each other and now locking arms in solidarity with each other, and in solidarity for every woman who doesn't feel seen to finally be heard. No one can predict whether this burst of energy will lead to lasting changes. Time's Up members said the meetings had brought disagreements and frustrations as well. It's not as satisfying as finding a silver bullet, Ms. Ferrer said. We all recognize there's no such thing, but she added, not taking action is no longer an option. Ms. Rhymes said working with the group of women reminded her of a feeling she got as a child when her mother took her around the neighborhood in a wagon to register black women to vote. We're a bunch of women used to getting stuff done, she said, and we're getting stuff done. That is from the New York Times. What can I say? This is inevitable. This is a Queen's Gambit. They're seizing on an opportunity. In the boardrooms, in Hollywood, in politics, I said 2018 would be a crucial moment as far as this is concerned, because it's like a prairie fire. They're going to get behind it. They're going to try to seize power. This is a power move by the women in this society. This is their opportunity. It didn't come in 2012 like they thought it would with the end of men. But now with Me Too, they can get the rank and file women behind it. This is probably why they are including the rank and file blue collar women. Because without the blue collar women, they can't go anywhere. So this is their opportunity to seize power and seize seats at the table, politically, business-wise, corporate-wise. They've already done it in the school system. So this is the yes means yes, dear colleague letter spreading out into the broader world. Now, it remains to be seen how men are going to react to this. We already saw what NBC's trying to do. And I'm sure there's more other NBCs out there that are going to do the same thing. But as the situation becomes more hostile, Will men continue to get more defensive? And when they get more defensive, where will they look for solutions? Like I said, these people are not going to stop. It's not going to be one of those things where it's going to blow over. No, women take things to the mat. They really do. And I told you that they would not be able to resist a chance to seize power. Women don't believe in the long game. And of course, Hollywood is going to placate it because Hollywood depends on female dollars right now for entertainment. If you want something on TV, then you have to have females behind it because men don't watch regular TV anymore. Women encroach on male spaces to change men. They don't encroach to actually make something for themselves. They encroach on male spaces to change men. If not, all these high-powered women would form their own agencies with their own actresses, which is something that they should do. Men would do this. If women were encroaching on something that men were doing, all the talented men would get together and form their own thing. I recently saw a video where women were flooding into a men's bathroom and just lined up in their stalls without permission. Why? Because women no longer have respect for men. Now, black men have long known that their women don't have any respect for them. And black women have long held black men powerless for the most part. And now white women are attempting to do the same thing with white men. Now, we'll have to see how that reflects out into the broader society because you can't predict things like this. But this is a Queen's Gambit. The Queen's Gambit is sending out the pawns as sacrificial lambs, which most of the Me Too, hashtag Me Too women are. They're pawns, sacrificial pawns, so that the queens can have free run over the board. Me Too for them is a sacrificial pawn so that the queens at the top can actually force their way into leadership in positions of power. But for the Queen's Gambit to work, the opposite side of the board has to accept the gambit, have to accept the sacrifice. We'll see how far that goes. I predict that a lot of men will start being MGTOW at work. Will start being it more at work. I think there's a separation coming between men and women because that's the only thing possible. No man can work under these kind of conditions. And most men will seek to have separate sections. But women haven't thought that far. But with that, I'll jump off of here. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.